We're here to talk about the OpenSearch Search Relevance Workbench. So I'm Stavros Macrakis, Product Manager for Search at OpenSearch, and there's Eric Pugh, who's at OpenSource Connections, our partner. So what's this about? Everyone talks about relevance. You say, relevance is what we care about in search. We want good results. And I was surprised when I first joined AWS, when I first joined the OpenSearch group, I went and talked to a bunch of customers. And I found that everyone complained about the quality of results, but no one really knew what to do about it. And some customers were fairly sophisticated about collecting data about what was going on, what their users were doing. Others were not so sophisticated. Some had their own home-built tools for analyzing the results, for analyzing different algorithms. Most did not. And most really were looking to us to help them to improve relevance. And so it seems that there's a need here for tools, but not just tools, a way of collecting the basic data. So what does that mean, really? Well, if you've attended any of my talks before, you've seen this diagram. This is what search relevance is about. It's iteration. And it's iteration where you start with search processing. Everyone thinks about that top right box. They say, oh, we want lexical search, we want semantic search. Actually, these days they all say, we want semantic search, we want vector search. Great, that's wonderful. How do you know the results are good? How do you know the results are better than what you had before? How do you improve the results? Well, that's not answered in that box. That box is about what tools you have. The upper right is the one that tells you how you measure the results. You measure the results, you measure them online, you see what your users are doing in real time. But you can also do offline experimentation, where what do we all do? As search engineers or search product managers, what's the first thing you do when a vendor installs a product? You try it out, and you have your favorite queries. Red shoes. You say, okay, red shoes works fine. How about crimson pumps? Are crimson pumps going to return me water handling equipment or women's shoes? So for the non-native speakers, pumps are a name for high-heeled shoes. So all of this sort of thing, you'd like to be able to experiment and see what's going on, and regression test. You say, okay, is my new version better than my old version? How do you do that? And the answer is, for many of our users, almost all of our users, this is a very informal process. There are no tools to support it, and the tools that there are to support it are fairly primitive. So you take Excel or diff or whatever. It doesn't work very well, but better than nothing, I guess. Oh, and then finally, you have the bottom, which is why you're doing the experiment, the measurement, which is tuning. You actually want to change the algorithm and adjust parameters and so on. So let's zoom in on the upper right, the measurement analysis, and the things that we've done at OpenSearch in that area. We've started with the first, most basic thing, which is our user behavior insights project, which is complete at this point. It's in the product, which is about measuring what your users do. And that's about measuring what queries they put in, what results they see, all of the results they see, not just the ones they click on. What results are they seeing? And then what do they do with those results? And the typical kind of thing that users will do is they'll open up one or two results, maybe the third one, and maybe the third one they end up buying or reading or whatever the action is. So that's the basic data. If you don't have that data, it's very hard to know what to do. And one of the things you collect in that data is just the queries. You say, what queries are our users putting in? The next stage of this process is what we call our Search Relevance Workbench, which just came out a few months ago in open source and is coming out, I guess, next week in the managed service. So the Search Relevance Workbench has all the tools you need to compare results. And compare results, well, we'll see on the next slide what I mean by that. So there's offline evaluation, meaning I have some queries and I want to know what results they give and compare them between versions. There's online evaluation. Then there's some interesting techniques which are going to be in future versions of the SRW. Interleaved A/B testing, which is a very powerful kind of A/B testing, which we won't go into detail today, but it's a kind of A/B testing where instead of waiting a month or more to get statistically valid results, it can be as little as a day to get statistically valid results, which is amazing. That means your turnaround time is much faster. We're also putting up actually, this should be in the other order because nightly evaluation, I'm confusing the terms. Now, nightly evaluation, if you want to schedule evaluation of your live results, your algorithm is changing over time, you can run that on a schedule. And finally, universal search API access, where maybe you are migrating from some other system, let's say Solr, to OpenSearch, and you want to make sure that your query actually is producing as good results or comparable results. Or maybe you're thinking about buying a new service, and you say, well, this OpenSearch thing, does it actually work? So you want to try it out. And so we'll be providing ways of plugging into other systems to get their results. So what's so cool about the Search Relevance Workshop? Oh, you have
Workbench. That snuck back in.
Workbench. Well, you don't have my updated slides. I have updated the slides. Damn it. Now I have to remember what I put on those slides. So the Search Relevance Workbench is a bunch of tools, and it's tools that work with your data and work to give you insight and not just numbers. So a lot of search evaluations, if you look in the published literature, people often use benchmarks like BEIR, and they compare different algorithms on BEIR. Well, BEIR is a perfectly good benchmark set. It probably doesn't correspond to what you are doing in your business. In particular, it's very weak on e-commerce. It's not a very good benchmark for e-commerce. It's a few years old now, so to some extent there's the effect of cheating, if you like, where people know what BEIR does and they've tuned to BEIR. But who cares? I mean, it's a benchmark. It's fine for comparing things in the abstract. It's not terribly useful for comparing things in your context, for your users, for your business case. So that's why we emphasize in the Search Relevance Workshop using your own data and evaluating things. Now, part of it is using the benchmark style metrics, where you end up calculating whatever, the NDCG and various other metrics. Everyone loves NDCG. You say, oh, our NDCG is bigger than yours, haha. But you don't get much insight from that. You say, is 0.57 better than 0.55? Yes, sure, it's better. But what is better about it? Am I doing better on some kinds of queries and worse on other kinds of queries? Probably. So one of the things we emphasize is the notion of experimentation and exploration. So you'll see in the demo that we have tools specifically to allow you to experiment and to what we call eyeball the results. Now, eyeballing, that doesn't sound very serious or scientific, but in fact it's what we all do. When we come up with a new search engine and we install it, the first thing we do is we try some test results and see, well, what results are there. But we don't have tools to support that process systematically. So which ones should I look at? If I have a list of, let's say, 1,000 standard queries that I want to test, I can't look at all 1,000 result sets. That's not possible. So which ones do I concentrate on? And you'll see that Eric will show you exactly. We have a tool which lets you home in on exactly the ones you want to look at and say, wait, why did this one change so much? You don't care about the ones which are almost the same, right? And there's no reason to use human effort to see the ones that are almost the same. Now, the other part of the SRW is it's not just a GUI, it is a GUI, and the GUI supports experimentation and management of data and so on. It also has APIs for managing data. And now we come to the demo, which is the meat.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Stavros. Feel free to chime in as we go. So, all right, so I am going to show you guys, let's see, escape out of that. I am going to show you the Search Relevance Workbench. And what I am really excited to be able to say is what I am going to be demoing is actually running in the nightly playground as of yesterday afternoon. So this is, it's up there, right? Yep. This is hot off the presses. We got the Search Relevance Workbench deployed in the nightly playground. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is an environment, the nightly playground, and it is what it sounds like. It's a playground environment. It's got all those sort of latest bells and whistles of OpenSearch. It's deployed every night, and it's an environment for people to start understanding and experimenting with the features of OpenSearch. And so I'm really glad that we now have it deployed in here. Now, let's think about sort of the journey that we all typically go on, right, when we get a new search engine or a problem, as Stavros sort of suggested, right? We all typically start with some sort of single query comparison, right? We have and I'm gonna go reference my little cheat sheet right here. For example, let's say, sorry guys, we're gonna have to log back in. There we go. See, it's a secure environment. There we go. All right, so we're back. So let's say we have a query like tape and mudding tools, right? I'm a home improvement, I'm an e-commerce site, and I've got some drywall tools, otherwise known as tape and mudding tools. And I have a basic query. This should look like the query that you've seen. And many of you may sort of remember this interface. It's been in OpenSearch for
several years.
Several years, right? And maybe I am curious if I could maybe improve that by maybe doing some title boosting. Let's boost, on the title. Obviously, I've got my e-commerce index here, and I'm going to compare it against the two. Now, we've done some great work in here, however, right? So this is the eyeballing interface, and let's go ahead and IDs are less useful, let's hear. And what you're seeing here is the query, tape and mudding tools, being run against two, what we call a search configuration. And I'll introduce that a little bit more. Two different query algorithms. And as you can see, right, our algorithm on the right, the first four results, same rank, same position, no change. However, this query here, our original baseline query, look at that, a spline tool, that's for Windows. It has nothing to do with drywall. And also we appear to have LED lights. I don't know why that's in there. And so if you look at this interface, what this lets me understand is that yes, boosting on title appears to have been helpful. I've added some new drywall tools in here, and some of the existing drywall tools that had been pushed down have now moved up into positions 5 and 6, okay? I'm able to start getting a little bit of a sense of how my search is doing just by this.
So now, let me add too that it's not just about seeing that some good results have gotten better. Often when you look at the details like this, you end up seeing patterns like, oh, color isn't being taken into account in version A, but it is in version B, or something like this. So you get a qualitative understanding of what might have changed.
Right. But as we all know, optimizing one query at a time means that we're looking at one tree in the forest, and it can actually take us down the wrong path, right? We optimize for a single query without realizing that we're hurting sort of a broader set.
This is the classic thing where the CEO says, oh, the mudding query is giving horrible results, fix it. And of course, it's easy to fix one query's results, but what have you done to all your other queries?
So our next step in this sort of process is what we call the query set comparison experiment. Now, I'll show you a little bit about a query set, but a query set is what it sounds like. It's a set of queries. You can manually type them in, you can upload them, you can even source them from live user traffic if you're using the user behavior insights to gather them, right? And so we've got a set of queries that we have, and we're gonna go ahead and this is a comparison, right? We wanna just eyeball and see difference. So I've got my baseline search configuration. I kind of showed it to you earlier. Baseline with title weight. And I'm gonna go ahead and run that evaluation.
Notice that one of the interesting things here is those search configurations have names, which sounds like a trivial feature, but in fact, it's really nice to be able to name the different things you're working on.
Exactly. So we went ahead and we ran that comparison. We ran 150 queries. You can see the set of queries right here, right? There's our tape and mudding tools. And we're actually getting some individual query metrics like Jacquard and RBO. And we can actually go in and look at them a little bit. So you can see we have that same eyeballing interface right in here. Let's go ahead and switch from ID to title. Right, you can see that we have that same eyeballing interface. However, what this gives us at a higher level up here are some metrics around the differences between the sets of results. And so if you're making a small change, you would probably expect minimal change between the left and the right. You would expect your Jacquard score to be very high.
So since I have a math degree, I will object to your characterization and say the Jacquard is about sets, but the RBO metric is about lists. So one of the interesting things is that you can, with Jacquard, that's how much overlap is there between the results in A and B. In RBO, that tells you how much change is there, but weight the ones at the top more, which is typically what you care about with search. You care that the first results are different more than you care that the 30th result is different.
And so we can kind of dig it, so we could get our overall metrics, and then we can kind of poke around. For example, whatever this query is, to boot New York, right? You can see that our Jacquard score was 1, our RBO score was 1. What that is suggesting to us is, and look, right? Title boosting had absolutely no impact on this query. That's interesting, right? You would have expected to change something. It might be something that you want to dig in a little bit and say, why didn't that change things? And you learn a little bit more about your content and data. So this is sort of the next step where I still don't have any judgments, any ways of defining quality, but I can start to understand change between things.
And one of the, are you going to do this now? Now if you sort by RBO.
Oh, okay, we'll sort by our RBO.
So if you sort by RBO, you can see the queries where there's 0 overlap between version A and version B, which are probably the ones you actually want to look at and say, well, did something go wrong here?
Right.
And then you know, this is actually sort of not typical that you get so many zeros, but the 0 result when you say, my algorithms are so different that none of the results are the same. Is that a bug? Maybe. It may also be about my corpus. Maybe there are 100 items which are basically the same, so it chooses them essentially at random. Yeah. So that's another reason you might have a 0 overlap. Yeah. But the only way you know that is by looking at it. Now I'm sure we can do more metrics to capture cases like that.
Lots of metrics.
But that's the interesting thing about the RBO and the Jacquard, that you can use them to hone in on the cases that you care about the most.
Yeah, so all of this data is just being pulled out of OpenSearch, right? It's all the information we got. If we have an image, we'll go ahead and surface that. And this just is available to you, no extra tooling that you need to install. Okay, so now we've kind of gone through the first steps, right? We looked at an individual query, we looked at a bunch of queries, we get a sense of what's going on, but we actually don't have any of the classic information retrieval metrics around quality, right?
And why not? Why aren't you calculating them?
Well, because I need judgments. A judgment is an evaluation of a query and a document and how good the match was, right?
You mean I can do something useful without judgments?
You can. This first whole half of the journey, you don't need any judgments. And the reason Stavros has given me a hard time on that is because judgments are actually can be difficult to get, because judgments require someone, often called a judge, to say this is good or this isn't. And for those of us in this room who are search engineers, are we qualified to evaluate matches in patent search or legal search or medical search or any of these other domains? Probably not. Historically, judgments were supplied by subject matter experts, and it was expensive and difficult.
By the way, in the machine learning world, they call judgments ground truth, which is not quite accurate, but just to be clear.
Yep. And we are taking our time loading this page. Come on. There we go. And one of the things I want to show you in here, though, is that we have a number of ways of sourcing judgments, and judgments become important for evaluation. We can source judgments. We have some basic capability for using a large language model, LLM as a judge, although we're gonna show more about that later. We also have what are called implicit judgments. And again, if you're using user behavior insights, you're gathering real user clicks on your website, we can actually use real user activity and behavior to determine what is attractive, what is good, what do the users like, and what they don't like. And so this gives us, yes, it's a little biased by what all our users are doing, but if you are gathering those click data, we can do implicit judgments. And then, of course, we can also upload judgment lists that you've gathered from elsewhere. So why does that matter? Well, it's critical for this next step in our journey, which is search evaluation. So still the same general process. We're going to go take our query set. This is our 150 queries with our mudding query, etc. We're not comparing a search configuration. We are evaluating a specific one. So let's go ahead and look at our baseline and get an evaluation. And we have our various way judgment sets. I'm going to just use this ESCI judgments. And let's go ahead and run our evaluation.
Boy, that's slow, Eric.
Yes, that's our playground that we shipped to last night. Have done no stress testing or anything else. You guys are getting to be the stress testing. We may be switching to my backup server.
This is what we call conference-driven development.
Yes. Okay. And with that, we are going to switch to my backup server. So bear with me.
Thank goodness for conferences, otherwise nothing would ever get done.
Yep, there you go. All right, so we are dropping back in. So, right, for those of you, right, it's right here. There's your search relevance, this Search Relevance Workbench, right? There we go. And here's an evaluation that I previously ran with our 150 queries. And it's not my, there we go. We are loading it up. So remember I talked about ESCI queries. This one I ran with the title boosting, and those are the judgments I used. And you can see that we're calculating some classic metrics. This data set is not as clean as the one I want to be showing you, so our NDCG score is very low. Oh, hey, look at that. We were just impatient. We are back. All right, let's go ahead and pull this guy up. There we go. So this was our baseline query set, and our NDCG score was 53. Also, 3 of our queries returned 0 results, which means they're not really participating in these metrics. There are many information retrieval metrics out there. We picked a handful for this initial version of the Search Relevance Workbench. NDCGs, some people don't like it, many people like it. It says, on average, how far down to on average, how good are the results?
And it has the good property that it's comparable between queries, which is not true of some of the other metrics.
Correct, right? And so you can see we have all of our NDCG metrics down here, as well as averaged over the case. We're offering mean, average, precision, and then precision being a metric of what % are relevant and what % are not. And so over this entire query set, 76% are relevant. We also offer a metric that we call coverage, which is for all, remember I said we need judgments that are query and document pairs that have a rating. In our data set, 85% of all the results being returned, we have a judgment, okay? In a perfect world, you'd aim for 100%. Everything has been evaluated. That's probably not realistic. If your coverage metric is really low, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40%, it really doesn't tell the rest of the numbers, you don't have a lot of confidence in them, right? Because you don't have good coverage of the judgments. And that's why we like LLM as a judge, implicit clicks as judge for judgments, other ways of gathering them. And then, we can kind of dig in and see what the different, what the documents are being returned. And there's a whole bunch of APIs behind this. So, anything else you wanted to say, Stavros, on this one?
Nope.
Okay.
I won't interrupt you on this one.
So that is our 3 steps in our workbench. We start out with, hey, I just got a problem and I want to dig into it. Then we start thinking about, hey, what does that problem mean over a set of queries? I want to switch from looking at the trees to starting to look at the forest, right? And then eventually I want to go up here to search evaluation, and I want to be evaluating my different algorithms. I'll go ahead and run this one. There we go. There you see it says processing, and in a minute or two.
That's an interesting point there. There I will interrupt you. So the processing thing is interesting because you don't have to wait for it. You can continue to do other things. It's doing the work in the background, and when it's ready, it's ready.
There we go.
So it's nicely designed so that you don't have to.
Yep.
And you can do it with 10,000 queries if you like, which may take a little longer.
Yep.
You could do multiple experiments in the background. All of that is just behind the scenes, no worries.
Exactly. And if you recall, you probably don't, but in our baseline, our NDCG score was 0.53. So title boosting over our 150 queries made a small but appreciable bump, 0.53 to 0.54. Nothing too exciting, but it went up. And the important thing is it went up, it didn't also go down. And that was a fairly low risk way of testing. So I think the last thing, before we kind of move on, I want to highlight this whole search configuration concept, because this is sort of a big new thing to be bringing to OpenSearch. The idea behind a search configuration is it's all of the aspects that determine your algorithm, right? I think we debated, I think there was an idea of calling it an algorithm. We went with search configuration, but it describes what is your index, what is your query, or if you use templates, what template are you using, what pipelines are you using, right?
But it can also be things like pre-processing. So you might be comparing different lemmatization algorithms. You might be comparing all sorts of other kinds of pre-processing synonyms. So you have 2 different synonym sets. You say, has this synonym set in fact improved things or not?
Yeah. And so I think...
So those are outside just the algorithm.
Exactly. But we are interested in this concept of a search configuration becoming more of a high-level first-class citizen in the OpenSearch vernacular as a way of describing and naming, hey, this is an algorithm that I want to go test. I want to go run it in an A/B test. I want to do it in an interleaved A/B test. We want to have this thing that is a name for all of this configuration that we do for an algorithm. So, okay. All right, so you guys see the URL. Let's move on. Bear with me. I don't know why we lost our,
Are you going to give that?
Why? There we go, that's where we want to be. All right, so moving on. All right, so you guys have seen it, right? It's on the playground. It's ready for you to play with today. Wanted to do a little bit of foreshadowing on some of the things that are coming up that Stavros talked about when he said, what is Search Relevance Workbench? So, shout out to my buddy Anthony in the front row right here, yay, right, for working on this. And Craig, I don't know, I didn't see you here, but you've been really helping it. One of the things that we want to do after we've done evaluation a couple of times is understand what's happening to search quality over time. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it staying the same? If it's staying the same, then no worries. If it's getting better, then yay, I look good to my managers. But is it getting worse? And at what point do we need to make an investment? We need to come up with a new search configuration. We need to dig into our content, right?
And this isn't only about when you change the algorithm on purpose, it's also when there are bugs. So you will end up seeing, for example, let's say that your content feed has failed and now nothing's up to date.
Yep.
What will that do to the results?
Right.
So it's a little bit like our standard observability, if you like.
Exactly.
It's observability on the quality of search results. Not is it up or down, but is it producing good results?
Yeah. So we're going with a very simplistic approach. you'll be able to very soon be able to take any experiment that you've configured, any search evaluation experiment, I should say, and we're going to use a cron job syntax. You could run it every night, you could run it every hour, you could run it every minute, but that doesn't seem meaningless unless you were doing some sort of interesting streaming thing that I'm trying to come up with a reason. But yeah, so you'll be able to create that. That's sort of a mock-up of where the UI is right now. We have most of the plumbing, and then we're going to be surfacing some dashboards. So nightly evaluation. Stavros highlighted that being able to do evaluation against OpenSearch is great, but it's not ambitious enough, and we want to be a lot more ambitious. We want to be able to evaluate other search platforms against our search, OpenSearch applications. We want to be able to evaluate not just the logic that you did inside of OpenSearch, but also your custom search API, right? Most of us are building search APIs with custom merchandising, searchandising logic. There's work on there. And only evaluating what happens inside OpenSearch is not going to give us a full, complete view of quality.
And in the migration case, I was talking to a customer last year who said, oh, I have an existing engine, works fine. I've been developing the relevance, the query for a couple of years, and we've tweaked it in many ways. Should I move to OpenSearch? And I said, well, yes, but how will you know that the results are as good? And that was where we left it, because he didn't know how to tell whether the results were going to be as good. So now we have a tool to help him say, okay, now I think I have reproduced my pre-existing logic in OpenSearch. Is it in fact true? Am I getting as good results?
So this is where we need some help from you. We have an RFC out there, right? Request for comment. That's how we do design in the OpenSearch community. We have a proof of concept that Scott developed where we're actually having SRW talking to a Solr API, and that interaction is through a template. So we create a template to map what OpenSearch is expecting as a response to what Solr is producing. So this is a proof of concept that we are looking for input on and believe that we can expand to others. So a couple other things that I'm excited about. So other people are also introduced in using SRW with other search engines. So this was a conversation with some folks at Amsterdam, Superlinked, and my colleague Matthias did an evaluation of their search engine. And so right here, it was as simple as using the APIs that SRW exposes to upload a data set into SRW so that we could then look at those metrics and compare them. This is a nice example of the APIs. However, it does get a little more interesting. And so, Fernando, you're here, right? Want to make a shout out for tomorrow's talk. Fernando and I hung out after OpenSearch Con, and he talked about using ELO rankings and for understanding what LLMs are doing, right? Eyeballing results would be very valuable in that use case. So quick shout out to tomorrow's talk where we're going to demonstrate doing a quite different kind of evaluation outside of OpenSearch and bringing those results into SRW and leveraging the APIs and what SRW provides. So where do we go from here, right? Hopefully you guys are excited. We have the first of 3 deep dive blog posts already published. Taking your first steps towards search relevance. Thank you, Daniel. That is already live on the OpenSearch project website. Yep. And then we have the second one coming out next week, and then the third one probably in October. So those are going to take you deep dive down through how to use SRW. So to kind of wrap this up, we couldn't have done this without all of the awesome people who have contributed to SRW. So I wanted to throw a shout out to all the different people who've joined, including some new ones in sort of the last month. So it's been really exciting to get to work with the community on all of this. So there's a QR code that's going to take you to here to get you to your next steps. You can also come find Stavros, Daniel, myself, Anthony. If you have questions, it's shipped in 3.1. It'll be available in managed service very soon. It's been enhanced and a little more battle tested in 3.2. And in 3.3, we got another batch of features coming out. There's a Slack community. We would love to hear more from each of you. So, all right. But.
Oh, there's one more thing. So we think SRW is pretty cool and does a lot of interesting stuff, but why are we just measuring? Why aren't we tuning automatically? Why aren't we letting the machines do our tuning for us, or at least help us tune? Next. We're starting to work on a project with our friends at OpenSource Connections called Agentic Relevance Tuning, ART. My nickname for it is Hume, after the philosopher, but some people in the audience don't like Hume, the philosopher. It is experiment-driven search tuning that builds on top of SRW, in particular builds on top of our interleaved A/B testing to let you see what a problem is, have the machine help you address it, measure the results, and eventually put it into production. Now, some people might say, oh, well, isn't that like using learning to rank? And the answer is not at all. Because learning to rank has a couple of problems. One is it's after you get the results, so it can't help you with recall. And the other is that it only works on things you can tweak numerically in the algorithm. It doesn't help with changing your synonym lists and things like this. So we're really excited about agentic relevance tuning. It's actually, we're starting off the project on Thursday and with a big meeting, internal meeting. And we look forward to communicating our progress on it.
So, all right. Thank you very much. And so stay tuned.
Please stay tuned.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible, Stavros. I thought we were going with, and this project is going to be state of the art. So, all right. Thank you very much. So
the question was, what about hybrid search optimization?
Yeah, so hybrid search, I'm super excited about it. We actually have two things coming. So hybrid search optimization is, you've got your vector search, you got your lexical search, you need to bring them together. We swizzle them together, and state of the art is 0.7 and 0.3. Why? Because someone wrote a paper once and said that was the answer.
Well, and there's more than one algorithm for doing hybrid search. You can do rank-based, you can do score-based, and each of them has various parameters you can tweak. So how do you tweak the parameters to get the best results?
Yes. So we actually did do a hybrid, and I'd love to show it to you, but our story was on measurement on this talk and not on optimization. But I think that there is an opportunity for a whole different slew of interesting new ones. The hybrid optimizer works. It takes a set of parameters, it takes your query set, your search configuration, brute force runs all the combinations, and then we have a dashboard that tells you NDCG, et cetera, and allows you to pick the one you want. Coming up in a soon-to-be here OpenSearch version is not just a hybrid optimizer that is looking at all your query sets and coming up with the best fit, but one that looks at queries on an individual basis, because you may have a query that really benefits from lexical, and you may have a query that benefits from vector, and that's where we really get the lift. So
typically, the kind of thing you look at is how long is the query is, how many function words does it include? Does it include any unique terms like part numbers? Because the balance of vector and lexical will depend on that.
Yeah. So yeah, come find us. I'd love to show it off.
You didn't push the button. There's a hybrid tuning button on the...
Yeah, that was the one, that was where Daniel told me, he's like, you're gonna segue your talk. We're focused on measurement in this one. The next talk will be optimization. And the hybrid's definitely a big part of that. So.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much.